Greetings everyone, and welcome to part 8 of my series, Is God Real? In part 8, we are going to go back to the beginning and talk about the Star of Bethlehem and all the signs that are related to it. Matthew chapter 2, the pilgrimage of the Magi. Now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and are come to worship him. So what was the star in the east that they saw that they thought was his star? Just before this sign gets started, Mercury goes into retrograde motion, and we have a solar eclipse. Now we have seen this before in the Revelation 12 great sign. The same thing happens there. Mercury goes into retrograde motion, and then we have a solar eclipse. So I believe this is part of the sign, and I believe it's kind of a calling card that the sign is getting ready to start and to pay attention. In the constellation of Leo is Regulus down at the point. This is known as the king star. Jupiter is known as the king planet. Planet is ancient Greek for wandering star. So Jupiter is the king wandering star. In this screenshot, I have zoomed in and removed the atmosphere. Now let's go look at what it would have looked like in the Middle East when they are looking toward the east for this sign. This screenshot is just before sunrise in the Middle East. You can see here's Israel. I have gone over into the Middle East to take a look at what they would have seen from that viewpoint, and also we are looking toward the east. Matthew chapter 2, verse 2, For we have seen his star in the east. Before we get started, I want you to notice that this is in 2 BC. This should really be 3 BC. Stellarium has a year 0, and there is no year 0. This sign is going to be over a year long. So it's going to go from -2 to -1, where really it should go from -3 to -2. Now let's remove everything, and we will take a look at what the Magi saw to know that Venus was Jesus' star, or his star. As we watch this part of the sign happen, each movement is one full day. You are going to see this move day by day. Every morning, the Magi had to come out and watch this sign happen, and it happened over many days. Let's move it one day forward. This is 24 hours later, the very next morning, and Jupiter and Venus have a very close conjunction. Let's keep going, and remember, every movement is one full day. Let's pause for just a moment and take a look at what's going on. Here's Jupiter, here's Venus. Mercury is just coming up over the horizon. Mercury is in retrograde motion and looks as though it's moving backwards. Mercury is the messenger. Mercury brings a message. Let's see the message that Mercury tells the Magi to let them know that Venus is his star. If you're wondering why the screenshots are getting darker, it's because now we are almost a month later. We are in September, whereas the beginning of the sign started in August. As we get further and further into the year, sunrise starts just a little bit later each day. Now let's go back to the conjunction between Jupiter and Venus that we watched earlier, and we will watch Jupiter's part of this sign. Here we are at the same conjunction between Venus and Jupiter again. We are going to watch this from a different perspective. I've removed the atmosphere. Watch Mercury circle Venus again. So that's the first part of this sign. Now we're going to watch Jupiter and Regulus with the center part of this sign. I did not find this center part. Rick Larson found this a few years ago. You can find his video online. What we're going to watch happen is Jupiter, the king wandering star, is going to pass Regulus, the king star. Jupiter is going to go into retrograde motion and pass Regulus again. Then Jupiter is going to go into prograde motion and pass Regulus again, essentially saying king, king, king. Each movement is now going to be about 5 days. And at the very end, you are going to watch Venus come back onto the screen and have another very close conjunction with Jupiter. Here we are at the final conjunction between Venus and Jupiter. Jupiter's part of the sign is now finished, and Venus will finish off the full part of the sign. As you can tell here, we've gone over 10 months since the first conjunction. Here we are on the same day. It's the same conjunction. We are just looking at it from a different perspective. I want you to notice that we are looking at it from Jerusalem instead of the Middle East, and also notice that we are looking toward the west. Matthew chapter 2 verse 2, saying, "Where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and are come to worship him." When Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he demanded of them where Christ should be born. And they said unto him, In Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophet. So they are in Jerusalem, and they need to go to Bethlehem. And we're going to jump down to verse 9. When they had heard the king, they departed, and lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. So we are looking toward the west, and we are in Jerusalem. Bethlehem is about 5 miles to the south. So if the star is going to go before them, Venus should be headed this way toward the south. Before we start moving, pay attention to where this conjunction is located next to the lion, and also, by the end of it, notice where the lion is located. Notice how the lion is now down close to the horizon. The conjunction between Venus and Jupiter was right in this area. But the constellations move according to how the Earth moves around the sun through the seasons. Back to Revelation chapter 2 verse 9. When they had heard the king, they departed, and lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. How would Venus stand in the sky? The planets, or wandering stars, are constantly moving around the constellations. But Venus, at this point in time, goes into retrograde motion, and it's going to look like it stops in the sky between this constellation and this constellation. So the Magi have just watched Venus cross the sky and lead them, and right now it's starting to slow down, and it's going to stop right between these two constellations. They go out the very next night, and the constellations are a little bit lower in the sky, but Venus is still stuck between these two constellations. They go out the following night, and Venus is standing between these two constellations, yet at the same time it's getting closer and closer to the horizon. The following night, it's the same thing. Venus is standing in the sky, yet at the same time, it's getting closer and closer to the horizon, guiding the Magi right to where Jesus is located. Matthew chapter 2, verse 9 and 10. When they had heard the king, they departed, and lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. 3 weeks later, God finishes this over year-long sign with something rather spectacular.